Biology with snakes, scorpions, spiders, and centipedes. He spent the summer in the Galapagos Islands doing research, and this is his PhD student, Kale. So, I'd like to welcome Dr. Bill Hayes.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's up a little bit high. Squeeze on the switch of that position.
All right, how's that?
There you go.
Okay, is that too loud or how? And we have some echo with maybe the other mic.
Feedback.
You gotta turn the gain.
Go away! Are you using the lapel mic?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just turn this on.
There you go.
How's that?
Yep.
Hey, it's good to be here. How many of you are Yucaico residents? I probably should have asked the other way. How many came outside of Yucaico? A few of you. A fair number. Wow. I'm from Hemet. Who's from Hemet? This town?
My grandson.
You like snakes? Give me 5. How many of you like snakes? Not everybody. I'm hoping you have a new perspective by the time we're done here. Okay, so Cal, you may want to find a seat here, I don't know. But so what we're going to do today is we're going to just give a PowerPoint presentation that might last. I'm going to try my best to keep it under an hour. I should be able to. We're going to talk a bit about snake biodiversity. How many species of rattlesnakes are in our area, for example? We'll talk about some of the basic biology of these rattlesnakes. I have a feeling you're going to learn a few things you did not know before. We'll look at venom and snake bite. We're all interested in that, right? We'll talk about how we can coexist with these snakes. I do have one slide that might interest you there, but we'll have live snakes up here. How many want to hold a live snake? A fair number, not every hand. Are you two going to be able to see from over there?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be in your way.
No, we'll move around.
I can move over to this side.
No, it's all right.
Okay, and I'll take questions. I want to say that Kale, at the end, let's remind me. Where'd Kale go? So remind me. So Kale is just joining my lab. I've got a number of students. He's coming from the Phoenix Herpetological Society, where he was the main caretaker for the venomous snakes for the last 403. How many years? 21 years. And he has done some previous research. I want to give him a couple minutes to describe it because it's super entertaining. Okay? All right, so rattlesnakes are fun stuff. All right, so these are the venomous snakes we have in the U.S. We have copperheads, cottonmouths further east. They don't have rattles, of course, but they're in family Viperidae with the rattlesnakes. They have movable fangs, right? And then we have the coral snakes and sea snakes. These are elapids. Their fangs are rigid. They cannot move their fangs. There's a structural difference between these two groups of snakes. That's a major feature. So you can all recognize the rattlesnake, right? It's got that rattle. And the non-venomous snakes, they come with cans on their heads, right? But what you really want to look for is that tail, a very fine tapered tail. Okay, kids, you got that? You're going to look for a rattle, or you're going to look for that skinny little tail tip. Okay, that's important. We're going to take questions at the end. Okay. So in terms of how many rattlesnake species we have. They're strictly in the New World, about 48 species. Some suggest as many as 60. The numbers keep going up because we have different ideas about taxonomy, what's a species and what is not. 24 species in the U.S. We have as many as 9 species in California now. Some people are saying less. It depends. Okay? And here in this area, Southern California, we have 6 species. Once you go north of Highway 15, you pick up a couple more if we want to, at least one more. Again, what's a species and what is not is up to debate. So let's talk about, this is one year in your neighborhood, red diamond rattlesnakes. They're big, they're reddish, They're beautiful. Look at black and white tail bands. Okay? And that's the habitat they're typically in here in Southern California. You can see their range. We're kind of at the northern limit of their range. They continue south all the way to the tip of Baja California. Then we have the Southern Pacific rattlesnake. If you're in the foothills, you kind of run out of red diamonds, and this is the one you're going to get. Lots of Southern Pacifics, okay? And you'll see they're in the green range on the map. That is kind of hollow sounding. I can turn this off.
Can you fix
Do you guys need it for the video?
No, if you're loud enough, he's got the audio. Let him turn the monitor down.
Right, how does that sound any better? Or is that better? Okay. So they range from the coast all the way to the highest mountains in Southern California, all right? And this is a very common snake. They have black, look at the black on the tail there. They don't have those sharp black and white bands.
How's this? Is this gonna be loud enough? Will this be loud enough?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
That's good. Let's go with this. Okay? And you can see they vary quite a bit in color from very dark to more pale. And the babies, I gotta remember which one's the babies, instead of having a black tail, it's yellow. And that yellow changes as they grow to become more black. All right? And these are very common in your area. Let me go over there. I changed the slide on my laptop.
Is that easier to see? Yeah.
My laptop's working. Projector is not changing.
That's weird.
You got a red dot on your remote? Is it transmitting?
Is there something on my remote that made it freeze?
Pull the batteries out and put them back in.
There it goes.
There
Yeah.
it goes. Was thinking.
I don't know what that was.
Love technology.
So here's your speckled rattlesnake. They tend to be reddish or orangish. They can be more blackish or whitish. But these are more in rocky habitats that you'll see here on the left. And the red is their range. The population north of Interstate 15 up here, that's now recognized by everybody as a distinct species, okay? And so these you're not seeing right here likely, but certainly down in Hemet we picked them up and elsewhere. They're in rocky habitat. And the speckled rattlesnake's interesting because they often look the same color as the rocks they live among. So the reddish rocks, they tend to be reddish. The whitish rocks, they tend to be whitish. They're not changing their color to match. They're born with this color. All the individuals have genes that have been selected over time. They survive better. So they look like the rocks. It's very interesting. And sometimes the rocks look like snakes. Go figure. They're mimicking the snakes. And, you know, maybe it's keeping the coyotes from peeing on them, I don't know, but scaring us away from them. But clever of the rocks, very clever. If you go a little to the desert and start picking up sidewinders, they don't get real big. Okay, they stay fairly small, and but they're beautiful. Look how they crawl sideways, and they leave those J-shaped. Whoops, they leave those J-shaped trails. Okay, and they just love the desert habitat. Look at the horns on that thing. That's a face only a mother can love, right? Personally, I think it's adorable. This is the western diamondback. You start picking these up. They don't get real big in California, but in Texas, of course, they get gigantic, like about 7 feet now. So I could ask, some of you might believe you've seen a 10-foot rattlesnake. There's no record, and hundreds of thousands, probably over 1 million snakes have been collected. Nobody's gotten anything over 9 feet even. So there's no such thing as a 10-foot rattlesnake. But these get big, 6, 8 feet. And you'll see the black and white tail bands on that one as well. And they live in California in really the deserts to the east of us. You can see their range here. And these are the animals that are rounded up in Texas by people who get excited about this, but it's cruel to the snake. It's just cruel. A lot of these snakes are decapitated. And I want to say something about decapitation. You cut a snake's head off, and these are cold-blooded, or the better term is ectothermic animals. They don't generate their own body heat like you and I do, so they have a very slow metabolism. And that brain can stay alert and in pain for 40 minutes, maybe more. So it's just not a humane way to kill these animals. If you go north to the northern desert, north of the mountains, you get Mojave rattlesnakes. And you've heard probably that they're really super dangerous. They're not really any more dangerous. Their venom is different, but the anti-venom we have, we'll talk about, treats it very well. So Mojave loves the creosote deserts out in the north of us, okay? So we have a lot of non-venomous snakes here, a good number. I'm just gonna show you a handful. These are beautiful, aren't these beautiful kids? Ladies? So there's a gopher snake, look at the tail, very fine pointed tail, but that's wide-ranging here, and his blotch is kind of similar to a rattlesnake. It doesn't have the triangular head and skinny neck, but, or that rattle, of course. This is a western coachwood, we all sometimes call red racer. These are diurnal only. You only see them in daylight. They're not out at night. Same with this striped racer. And we have king snakes. King snakes are called this because they eat other snakes, all right? And they're very handsome creatures, non-venomous. Again, kids, look at that tail. Very pointed, right? Yeah. And this is a rosy boa, generally in rocky areas. These can be fairly tame. But unless you keep them as a pet, sometimes they startle. They think when you put your hand in, you're getting food. They can become eaters. There's a glossy snake, very common out in our desert. And then we have up in the mountains something beautiful called the mountain king snake. All right? And also out in the desert along those snakes. So these are gorgeous creatures. And then we have a small set of snakes that are technically venomous. They have enlarged rear teeth that can inject a venom, but it's not going to hurt us. Okay, but they are technically, if you're a lizard, you're going to hurt. Okay, so we have the leaf-nosed snake. We have these are small snakes too. We have a shovel-nosed snake, ring-necked snake. These are all technically venomous. Okay, and a night snake. So there's a lot of variation. Some people confuse that with a rattlesnake, but again, look at that little tail there. Okay, that's marked the head. Boy, that looks a lot like a rattlesnake's head, really. And all the blotches, but that tail is what you want to look for. So let's talk about the biology of rattlesnakes. Something you're going to learn a fair bit of today. So these are secretive animals. When you find them, good luck finding them again if you walk away, because they take off, they do their own thing. But what we can do is we can take animals and we can put a transmitter on them, either externally attach it to their body, or we can implant it in their body cavity, okay? And that sends off an invisible signal in the air, radio signal, that we can pick up with a receiver here. And the stronger the sound, these are directional, so the stronger the sound, that's the direction we want to walk to find our snake. It's fabulous. We can relocate these snakes time and time again and acquire all sorts of interesting information. Here we are, tracking one in the field, and this will be implanting a transmitter in the body cavity. Okay, so this gives us an idea of what we've learned about their activity. So these are the different months: January, February, March, autumn through December. They hibernate during the winter, but this is activity. And kids, what do you see? You kids can make sense of this. When you get home, you can tell your parents what you learned. But they become very active in the spring months, March and April, and then in the summer, they calm down, and then they're active again in the fall and in winter. When I say they hibernate, they go underground and they largely stay there. They can pop up to the surface from time to time if it's warm, okay? And look at this. The males tend to have much more activity than the females, especially in spring and fall, because for most of these snake species, not all, they mate in both spring and fall. I'll get back to that, okay? Here's their daily movement across the 12 months, and here's the bites that show up at Loma Linda University. There's quite a correspondence there. And I want to point out that these bites in the fall are largely from babies. A lot of babies emerge in fall. Okay? Which are more dangerous, by the way, the babies or the adults?
Adults.
Same.
Whoa, I'm hearing a range of answers. And I can tell you which is the correct one later. We'll get to that. Oh, we'll get to that. I'll let you in suspense. Don't fall asleep. This is fascinating. Rattlesnakes will drink rainfall that lands on their body. It's a remarkable adaptation. Okay, they actually have scales. You can see this one's sucking up rain right there off its scales, and their scales are specially designed to keep the water in clumps so that they can drink from their bodies, which is amazing. So when we get these first monsoonal rains in the summer, this is more critical in Arizona probably than Southern California. But here they are. They come out. Some of the snakes in Arizona, it's so hot, they have to kind of like hibernate in the summer and just stop moving. But when it rains, they come out and they coil up and they collect the rainfall on their bodies and they suck up. Okay. Let's talk about reproduction. So these animals could breed annually. We see the males breeding every year. The females, many of them cannot do so. They just don't have enough energy to breed every summer. So it tends to be biennial or multi-annual. So here's the way it looks. They often copulate in the fall. Here's the months. If you kids understand the months, right, of the year? Yeah. So they're copulating in the fall. The female will store the sperm over winter, and then she'll ovulate in the spring. She releases those eggs inside her body. She releases the eggs inside her body. The sperm that was stored there can fertilize them, and she can copulate again, and she can have babies from multiple dads. Okay, and then she's pregnant all summer, and then she gives birth late summer, and then she may need that entire year to rebuild her fat supplies to go through this cycle again. So they're not usually breeding every year. Some individuals that are really fat and healthy, they could reproduce a couple years in a row. Okay? And when they mate, that's their kind of mating posture. And the males have a pair of copulatory organs. The kids can explain this to the adults later. But they'll insert one inside the female. Snakes and lizards have paired organs. Sharks and rays have paired organs. Okay? And that's how they mate. There's the organs right there. They actually have to invert those, stick them inside out. And the males, they fight sometimes for access to females, just like adolescent and sometimes grown-up men. Okay? You've all been to bars, some of you maybe not, but a lot of this type of behavior happens there. It's just not as entertaining. Okay? And then the babies, when they emerge, those aren't rattlesnake babies, those are king snake babies. Rattlesnakes do not lay eggs, okay? They give birth to young in these transparent membranes that we were incubating inside the mother's body all summer. And those membranes rupture immediately, and then the baby comes out, and they are well equipped to bite, okay? And the moms will stick with the babies stick with the moms for about 7 to 10 days, most of the time. There are sometimes some populations really just disperse, but the babies often stay with the moms. There's one study suggesting the moms become extra defensive during this period. And the babies will then shed their skins, and now they've got tough skin and they're ready to go out and see the world, okay? So it's soft skin when they're inside their moms. So they need that new skin to get going. But that's pretty cool, isn't it? Mothers being protective of their babies. The dads, they're a different beast altogether. Felt like some humans. Okay, social behavior. You guys read this in the back?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've mentioned that they often overwinter in communal dens. We have maternal attendance of the young. The babies and moms may have to use chemical trails, smelling each other to find where the overwintering den is. Some good evidence for that. They're capable of kin recognition. They know whether they're relatives or not, and by smell. And they can form social networks. Some individuals prefer to hang with other individuals and avoid yet others, okay? So they're about like us, all right? And so we had a simple hypothesis. Could social buffering. Reduce stress in a rattlesnake. So you and I, we call this social buffering. If we're in a stressful environment, we have somebody with us, and it could even be a dog. Do you feel less stressed when you're around your dogs? There's some other, where are the other kids? I love it when the kids are here. Social buffering can work, guys. Social buffering can work even having a pet with you. It just reduces our stress. And we thought it might work for rattlesnakes, so we hooked them up to these heart rate monitors, and we had this special device here, and it would get banged. Here, watch. This should be video. Oops, I hit the right buttons. I guess it's not video. But anyway, we would test these snakes alone and with a rope that was similar in size to a companion snake, just to make sure that if we saw a change in heart rate, it would be because there was another object rather than a snake with them. And then we had the same-sex companion, okay? And here's what happens. The heart rate, hitting the wrong button. The heart rate declines after you put them in the buckets. And then when you put in this, then when you bang the bucket, you get this brief increase in heart rate, and then it slowly stops, returns to baseline, okay? So we're testing the heart rate responses, and if we look at the baseline heart rate, you can see that the change in heart rate, if the baseline heart rate became fairly small, fairly low, we would see a big difference between the three treatments, okay? No difference between the control and the rope. The control is by itself, but if it has a companion, the heart rate increases much less, significantly less, okay? But we only detected this at low baseline heart rate. If their heart rate was still kind of elevated because they got moved into the bucket, we couldn't see this effect. We only saw it after they had calmed down a bit, but they exhibited social buffering just like you and I. They get by with hope from their parents, right? So we had the media just jump all over this story. They liked it, and I don't particularly care for cheesy headlines. Misunderstood rattlesnakes have a tender side. Rattlesnakes can calm down their friends. I don't know. There was one, I don't have it here. Snakes get by with a little help from their friends. But these make the snakes more relatable. They're not all that different from us. Okay, they're sentient creatures. Snakes, maybe they have personalities. You guys are familiar with personalities, and these are the big 5 traits that researchers like to study. Some of you are more familiar with the Briggs-Myers traits, but these are the ones that are better to study. So we can ask, do animals have personalities just like we do? And what we're trying to do is test these animals to see if they have consistent behavioral tendencies. Maybe some are consistently exploratory. Some are consistently bold. Some are consistently very defensive. Some are consistently jerks, right? And what am I bumping here? Okay, and we're discovering all sorts of animals are exhibiting personalities just like humans. What about rattlesnakes? There are several studies that suggest defensive and exploratory behaviors are subject to personality. Some snakes are just pissy, and some snakes are relaxed and easygoing. We wanted to know about venom expenditure. Here's a snake. There's 2 venom pulses, 3 venom pulses, there's 4 venom pulses. We can quantify these behaviors. We can measure how much venom there was. And I'll just show you how, as an example, this is the amount of venom that snakes injected. Each snake injected during 3 venom extractions 1 week apart. And you can see some individuals were very consistent, like this one, and some individuals were, that one was inconsistent. The 3rd time it got really upset at us. And here are the behaviors. We can measure how repeatable they are, and they're all in the medium to large range, which suggests, even personalities for how they use their venom, okay? All right, just to finish off rattlesnake reproduction, I should have just inserted that study, but here's some crazy facts. I should have moved this slide. They have long-term sperm storage. I mentioned that. Females can store sperm over winter, but a record 6 years of sperm storage. Parthenogenesis is very rare, but it happens. Virgin birth, no sperm at all. Very rare, but it sometimes happens. It's bizarre. And politicians definitely weren't dangerous in snakes. Sorry to its leg got misplaced. Right? Let's talk about the rattle. This is what they're born with. That's called a pre-button. And then as soon as they shed for the first time, that falls off, and now they have this. That's the button after they shed the first time, okay? And every time they shed their skin, they add a new segment, okay? So how many times does this animal shed its skin? Once to get that one, it's bilobe. Then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That snake is shed 7 times. Now once they get older, here's how the rattle works. These are modified scales, and you can see that they have this little narrow here part, and then a shoulder above that, and so they interlock with each other to stay in place, okay? And, but once they get older, the tip can start breaking off. That starts happening. By the time you get about 10 segments. Can we save the question for later? Try to remember though, I want to hear. This is a Catalina island rattlesnake in the Gulf of California. None of them have rattles. And that's because the shoulder that's supposed to hold the next segment in place is just deformed. They're just genetically deformed. They didn't need the rattles. They're on an island with virtually no predators. So they didn't really need the rattles. And once the mutations started happening, where they didn't form well, those individuals survived just fine. So they lose every time they shed, they lose the next segment, okay? Now, these snakes also provide important roles in nature. They're fed on by other animals, and they eat other animals, okay? And that's just the point I want to make there. Once you start removing an animal from an ecosystem, you create imbalance, and that's unhealthy, and it can lead to serious problems. We depend on ecological services to provide us with food and water, recreation, emotional support, oxygen production. All of these ecological services are very important, so we have to maintain the balance of nature. It's incredibly valuable to us. If we were to place a price tag on environmental ecological services that we get from healthy environments, that's been estimated to be $125 trillion per year. So when we screw up our environments, we screw ourselves. Healthy humans need healthy environments, okay? Let's talk about the venom. You guys understand how they use their venom, right? How many of you see my incoming college students? Kale's older than he looks. But some of the younger students like these, they don't know who Gary Larson Farsight. How many of you? How many? Yeah. You're the right age, most of you. No, don't know Gary Larson, huh? These Farsights are fabulous. Okay, so in the head, it's triangular shape. They have big fat cheeks because on each side they have a big huge venom gland, all right? So there's the venom gland. The venom is produced there. It's squeezed through a duct out through an accessory gland and then through fangs, okay? And again, the fangs smooth, right? And they have this sheath that covers the fangs, and that sheath gets pushed up passively anytime they bite. So the fangs just go in, the sheath goes up, you're in trouble, right? So, what is the venom used for? Well, of course, it's used to get food, all right? And it very quickly immobilizes and kills their prey. Now, what's crazy is it can help them relocate their prey if they let go of it. I'll talk about that in a moment. It can even accelerate digestion. It has digestive properties, okay? So venom's a good thing for them, and there are certain prey, are ground squirrels. Rattlesnakes have a hard time killing these ground squirrels because these ground squirrels have evolved resistance to the venom. They have biochemical resistance. That should interest us, and people are exploring it because we wish we had that level of resistance. Once the ground squirrel is 6 weeks old, it's tough for a rattlesnake to kill it. They do, but it's tough. They gotta inject a little more venom. There's an arms race as to how potent your venom is and how good you are at resisting the venom. Predators. Venom's good for defense, okay? Now, some predators, they actually, they instinctually know this is something dangerous, I leave it alone, okay? Because their ancestors that were stupid died, and the smart ones lived. So if you have the genes that help you be aware, that's a good thing. But if a predator goes ahead and bites, then that pain alone can stop the attack and save the snake's life. Okay? And some of these predators have immunity. An opossum can eat a rattlesnake, and if it gets bit, it doesn't matter. They just have incredible capacities to survive a bite. It's remarkable, okay? Anybody recognize that? Wile E. Coyote? Not the most effective predator. Okay, so for predatory bites, the venom has an incredible role. And this will probably be new to all of you. But they detect their prey not by their ears. They don't have ears. Snakes do not have ears, right? Did you know that?
Yep.
Good. Some of these adults might not. But they have eyes and they have a tongue. They have eyes. They have eyes and they have this facial pit actually. The facial pit and the eyes. Those are used to detect. What they like to do is they like to find a spot where there's mouse odors, rat odors, and they coil up squirrel odors, and they wait for the animal to run along, and then they ambush it. Okay. So after they detect it, they strike, they inject the venom, and then they do the craziest thing. They let go. If it's at all big, they let go of the mouse or rat. That animal then wanders off and they lost their meal. So what they have to do is they have to start flicking their tongue and they smell the odor left behind by that fleeing rodent. Now there's a problem here because there's an incoming trail of odor and an outgoing trail. The venom instantaneously changes the odor of that rodent. And they can tell the difference between the two trails. They know where to go because the venom changes it, okay? And when they relocate that rodent, they swallow it. Why did they let go of the rodent? Because it could turn around and bite them and injure them. Seriously, it could destroy an eye, facial pit. So to play it safe, they let go and they can easily refine it. And of course, the most critical for success is getting the venom in, okay? So I have studied that. I did that with my PhD work and I've continued with students. But here again is this infrared venom, infrared vision, I should say. That's that facial pit that rattlesnakes have. It's really quite amazing. And they see the three-dimensional shape of something. I have a colleague, he's now passed away. He had a congenitally blind rattlesnake, no eyes, but it had facial pits, and it could watch a mouse move around in the cage and strike accurately every time. Okay? So this is basically what they see. And the brain actually combines the visual input with the infrared, the heat, body heat input, to in the same place in the brain, so that they can see an image somewhat like that. Okay? So how do they use their venom? Do snakes control how much venom they inject? And do they make decisions about how much to inject? Okay? And it's a simple thing. If you have a limited supply of this venom, you don't want to use all of it at once. You want to use it judiciously, okay? And you want to make sure you use enough, but not too much. So yeah, we think natural selection or nature over time has favored animals that make good decisions. Okay? They pass on their genes. We call this the venom metering hypothesis. So here's baby rattlesnakes. Whoops. I'll get it. Giving a little bit of venom. This is the size of the rattlesnake. Little snakes, medium, big snakes. This is the amount of venom it injects. The little ones are giving a little bit of venom. Medium are giving a medium bit, and the adults a large bit. And it increases exponentially because if you think about it, snake length is one dimension, but the glands grow in 3 dimensions. Okay, so it's an exponential increase. This is for predation. Maybe it's different for human bites. Some of you thought babies were more dangerous. We'll get to that. Here are different prey sizes. So these are this is some of my PhD work, like 200 years ago. And so you can see the medium rattlesnakes and why they're injecting less venom into small, more venom into large prey. Even the large rattlesnakes, less venom into small, more venom into large prey. Okay, and here's a cottonmouth from the southeast, and you can see that the bigger the prey, the more venom they inject when they bite. Okay, so they're making decisions to inject more venom, and it appears that they do it before they launch the strike. Okay, and here's mice and sparrows. If you think about a sparrow, if you let go of the sparrow, so it won't hurt you. It flies. How do you relocate it? There's no chemical trail. So they just hang on to the sparrows. It turns out they can't do as much damage. They tend to hold on to them, and they tend to inject more venom. Okay? Here, watch how difficult it is to be a snake. Here's a snake coiled right here. You see the coils? sidewinder. Oh, and look at it leap. And it missed the kangaroo rat. But we're not done here. What happens next? Ah, he didn't get a thing. It's tough to be a rattlesnake. Here's another one. Look at this kangaroo rat. Goes up by the rattlesnake launches. Ooh, he missed. Again, it's tough to be a rattlesnake. Here's another one. There's the rattlesnake right here. Now watch what this rat does. Kicks away. Now he may have gotten venom in, I don't know. But they only about 50% of the strikes are successful. These are radio telemetered rattlesnakes, and my colleague would find one and he sets a time motion camera on it, or motion detection camera. And as soon as there's motion going on, the camera gets these fabulous videos. Aren't those fabulous?
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, tough to be rattlesnake. What about humans and snake bite? That's something to be concerned about. These snakes, they're trained to get you. Okay, this happens to be a former student of mine. So what we want to do, of course, is we want to avoid this really bad experience. Now, I know one individual here has been bitten. I don't know how public he wants that to be. Anybody else been bitten? You've taken care of, you mentioned that to me. This is a nurse at Loma Linda Medical Center. She's worked with Dr. Sean Bush, a dear friend of mine, taking care of patients. Okay, so first of all, how far can a rattlesnake strike? Maybe a third to half its body length. So the biggest snake you're going to see in California is about 5 feet. Okay, half its body length, 2.5 feet. Make sure you're at 2 feet and 6 inches, maybe 5 inches. I would just say this: take 2 steps back, Jack. Okay? Can you say that, kids? 2 steps back, Jack, is all you need to say. 2 steps back, Jack, right? I thought I saw it. I'm trying to make this fun. All right, adults, does that make sense? Take 2 steps back, Jack, and get you out of their striking range. Now, this little snake can strike its full body length. They're more agile. But now we're talking about 1.5 foot long. Stay away from them, okay? Here's what a defensive strike looks like. Watch how the tongue flops from one side of the mouth to the other. It's kind of interesting. This is slow motion. This is not how fast they strike. How fast are they? They're like Muhammad Ali, who's faster than me. Okay? So you gotta be really careful. Okay? All right. We did experiments with these fake human limbs. We tried to get some volunteers to come in for snake bites. Okay? We decided against that. But we could dangle these fake limbs, and we fill them with saline, and we make it warm just like our bodies, because remember, they see heat. And we try to rub it against our skin so it smells like us, but it still smells like rubber. But we would have them strike that, and here's that question, that golden question. Which is more dangerous, the babies or the adults? How many say
Adults.
babies?
Adults.
Adults.
How many say adults? It's the adults have it. Just a little bit here. Okay, but the answer is the adults, and here's why. They just have a whole lot more venom available. These glands in the adults are going to be bigger than the entire head of the babies. And babies don't have that much venom, okay? And I didn't really show you an experiment that suggests the babies do control how much they inject, in addition to the adults. But here's defensive bites of these gloves. Who's injecting more venom? Little snakes, big snakes. Let's see, the big snakes are injecting much more venom. Okay? And where did this myth come from? I looked at old newspaper stories, and before 1970 in California, everybody got it right. The big snakes and the dangerous. And then from about 1970 to 2000 in California, all the newspaper stories in California were getting it wrong, and everywhere else in the U.S. was pretty much getting it right. Okay, correct is black. And then in the internet age, it's wrong everywhere. Okay, it's just wrong everywhere now. But you know the truth. The babies are not more dangerous because they have much venom. I can't emphasize how big a difference there is in the amount of venom available. students across the U.S., a higher percentage were familiar with this myth from the Southwest, and fewer in the Southeast, fewer as you go east and north. Okay, so I think this myth originated in some stupid little state called California. All right. What about super toxic snakes? Back in 2008, 2009, there were some stories coming out in newspapers in San Diego, Arizona, Denver, Colorado. Physicians were claiming, oh, rattlesnakes were evolving super toxic venom. We're seeing worse bites. There was no evidence to back up those claims, none at all. And I just want to say that there's much better explanations for the severe cases they were seeing. They've seen them all along, but they were being selected. And it is just, we post a paper refuting all of that. Everybody's backed off of that. I think rather than super toxic snakes, we have super stupid humans.
A pet rattlesnake, yeah.
Can you read that, guys?
Hard.
It says, man nearly dies after putting rattlesnake down the throat. Is that something you would do? See, these guys are not super stupid humans. Here's another super stupid one, okay? Yeah, I don't recommend that. Okay, now occasionally you get a dry bite. Occasionally you get a dry bite. This guy got lucky, right? Okay. Now we put long clothing over these artificial limbs. They're simply gloves, long gloves filled with saline. And sure enough, whether they're bitten by a small snake or a large snake, if you had pants on, it reduced by about 2/3 how much venom went into those gloves. So wearing long clothing can be protective. It kind of tangles up the fangs and provides some impediment to the fangs getting the venom in and releasing the venom. Okay. Now island tameness. Anybody ever been to Galapagos? You have. I've been there 6 times. I've had so much fun. But the animals are incredibly tame there, right? Like you can crawl right up to these birds and the like. I mentioned the rattlesnakes, okay? And Catalina Island in Los Angeles, off out in the ocean. How many of you have been to our Catalina Island? Yeah, a good number of you. They have rattlesnakes. They tend to be a little smaller in size, but my students in the lab were saying, hey, these snakes that we have from Catalina are really hot. They're just very defensive, and I'm like, that sounds kind of prophetic, you know? Because they should be more tame, not more defensive. So we tested their behavior, we pinned them, and we recorded some variables while doing so, and then we extracted venom. And this is just to show you that some of these behaviors, like rattling and cloaca gland discharge, there was no difference between the mainland snake's 20 and Catalina snake's 10. But the Catalina snakes attempted to bite more frequently, it took me longer to pin them, and I didn't know which was which when I was pinning them. And they gave more venom. And here's a better look at the venom. So for any given length, the amount of venom delivered by the Catalina snakes was twice as much. Personality difference. These snakes just wanted to get you. I mean, I don't want to use those terms. These snakes were terrified of us, and so they would use their venom and say, back off. Okay? And so we wondered why. The only predators that are natural there are fox. Pigs have been introduced, cats have been introduced. So, and their densities, are probably higher out there, but here's the kicker. These are vigorous ungulates like cattle, and especially goats and sheep. Incredible densities are out there for like 100 years. Okay? Now some of these have been removed, which is a good thing. But these poor snakes were dodging these big mammals, and that's probably created their more defensive behavior. Look how the goats can decimate the vegetation out there. Okay? So through our carelessness, by introducing these animals, we make these snakes more dangerous for us. That's our interpretation. All right, so venom extractions are risky. They're essential for research and venom production. Here's a look at how we do this. Watch the fangs and how much venom comes out. So bear in mind the left fang and the right fang. You want to see this?
Wow.
They have separate control of the two fangs. Okay? So here goes another shot with I think that's the right fang. And then here comes the left fang once more. Now this is a lot of venom. And again, this is slow motion. Slow motion so you can see. Otherwise it'd be too fast to really see it well. Okay? So what's in the venom? real quickly, it tends to be viscous or yellowish. It tends to be yellowish. It's got mostly water, but there's often many proteins in it. We can run it through a system here to analyze it. We get all these peaks that come off the system. These are the different proteins that are present in any individual's venom, okay? And I could explain what some of these do, but it's complex stuff, okay? And here's the annual frequency. Western dieback is only causing 5 or 10 deaths out of maybe 5,000 bites. So your odds of survival are like 999 out of 1,000. You might wish you were dead.
Yeah.
But we have excellent antidote, excellent treatment protocols. You're almost surely going to survive. You may have some serious tissue injury, okay? You may lose a finger or two. You may have a frozen hand. You may have a big divot from tissue that had to be, that sloughed away. You might have your kidneys damaged. You could die. In the world, this is a much bigger problem. The number is probably 100,000 deaths, more than 100,000 deaths a year. So it's a big problem in the world where they don't have the antivenom access that we have. They have antivenom, but they're poor countries, and their healthcare system isn't like ours. Just real quick, what kind of animal causes the most human deaths in the U.S.? For
The
perspective?
deer.
Hey, that's an excellent answer. The deer. Indeed. Snakes are way down the list here, okay? Way down the list. Dogs are more dangerous in terms of deaths in the U.S. What about globally?
Alligator.
Hippos, you think. Actually, it's mosquitoes. Mosquitoes cause the most deaths globally. But rattlesnakes are up, snakes, venomous snakes are up there. They're high. They're higher than hippos, okay? Snake, I think they are. I can't remember now. That slide's in here, but it's hidden. So I gotta kind of speed things up. All right, so we did a quick study here at Loma Linda, 354 cases. These are the 6 clinical symptoms that we can score between 0 and 3. So the worst case scenario would be a 20, a score of 20. Nothing means you had a dry bite. 0 means a dry bite. So anyway, here's the snake bite severity score. Here's somebody who got a 16. But only 2 variables were significant here, snake size and patient mass. So you can see for patient mass here, here's a little kid like you guys. They're getting more severe bites than big adults like me, okay? And you can see the big snakes in blue, the medium snakes in green, the little snakes in red, okay? And so, species didn't matter so much. It was size of the patient, size of the snake. It's the amount of this nasty stuff that gets in your body, okay? And we also looked at the distribution of bites. What factors influence whether you bit on the lower limb or the upper limb? You might guess, but it's going to be patient sex, because we males tend to get bit in the hands. We're stupid, picking up the snake or playing with the snake. And illegitimate means you didn't see it, you interacted with the snake, okay? So that makes it more likely to get bit in the upper limbs. Age wasn't important. Size of the snake wasn't important. What about the distal part of your limb, like past your wrist or past your ankle versus the proximate side? You want to guess what factor's there? Turns out snake size is very important there, and if you pick it up. So if it's a little snake, it's less likely to get you up here. If you pick it up, it's more likely to get you here. And what about this? Who's messing with these snakes? You know the answer there, patient sex, because males are stupid, right? And we often cloud our judgment with alcohol. That's not a good time to pick up snakes. So snake bites are associated, 80% of the bites are to males, 45% were interacting with the snake, 20% of the time alcohol is involved. These are the cases at Loma Linda. So snake bites are associated with the 2 most dangerous chemicals in the world. What are those? Testosterone and alcohol. You should tell your parents, explain that to them. Okay, so how do we avoid this snake bite thing? Very important, okay? So watch where you put your feet. You go up to the mailbox at night, watch your feet. There could be a snake there, especially if you live in snaky habitat. Watch where you put your hands. Kids, you throw a ball to the dog and the ball ends up in the bush. Don't just reach in and grab it. Make sure you see what you're grabbing and there's no snake there, okay? You hear a rattlesnake, back away from it. What do you say to back away? What's the saying?
2 steps back.
2 steps back, Jack. Okay? And don't mess with them. Don't poke them. Don't play with them, even if they're dead. Remember? Maybe up to an hour. They're still capable of biting you. They can literally bite you when their head is chopped off. Snake proofing your property. That's a pretty clean home. Does that look like a clean home here? That's got places for mice and lizards, and snakes love mice and lizards, okay? So keep your place free of clutter. Here's Loma Linda. I had a student put radio transmitters in these rattlesnakes. There's 30 of them. So these are the sightings out in the nature, out in the wildlife or natural habitat, and these are all the human properties. And what's interesting here is this was a plowed fire break. The snakes would crawl through there, but they wouldn't stop there because there's nothing there for them. There's no shade. So that just kind of illustrates how important clear habitat can be, okay? When you want to snake-proof your property, don't waste your money on chemical repellents. I think they're useless. Wildlife netting, unfortunately, does kill snakes. I understand why you might want to use it for your garden, but it's not ideal. The walls, this wall obviously is a fail. This one, hey, that's very fine, and it's down to the ground, that works. This one here is another fail, because they can get under there. But there are people, you can go online and find people who will build snake-proof fencing for you. Sometimes we get nuisance snakes in our properties. Don't sit on that seat on the patio, okay? And we strongly recommend getting the snake into a bucket, taking it a mile or 2 away and letting it go. And you can call the authorities, they may come, like the fire department, they may come and kill it. And I understand that you are okay with that, but there are professional services that will come and relocate the snake for you. You have to pay a fee. If you relocate it a short distance, the snake tends to return. If you relocate it a longer distance, the snake is less likely to return, but it becomes much more active. It's kind of lost. It's trying to reestablish, where all the resources are that it needs, like rodents and so forth. But we did radio telemetry study that I just mentioned to you, and it didn't make any difference for our snakes. Short distance or long distance didn't make a difference. A mile is fine, if you want to move that far, okay? But you don't want to release a whole bunch in one place, which I don't know how some of us would do. Protecting our vets, we have a vaccine against the snake bite. It takes 2 doses. It's generally it used to be $20 or $30 each, but it's probably more now. But it's basically nothing more than Western Diamondback rattlesnake venom. This is what the rattlesnake venom looks like. These are the antibodies those dogs are going to produce, especially to the metalloprotease, snake venom metalloproteases. Now that will protect against our red diamond rattles, because their venom is very similar. But our Southern Pacific rattlesnakes, they have mycotoxins and some other stuff like phospholipase A2s and so forth. So you're not going to get protection against the Southern Pacific rattlesnake bite with this vaccine. And it may be limited even for red diamond rattlesnakes. A better approach might be rattlesnake avoidance training. Okay, so the way the training works is they will muzzle a rattlesnake with tape. The snake goes up to it, and it's got an electronic collar, and when the snake sees and responds to the snake, they zap the dog, and it's a mild shock, but enough to say, what the heck was that? Danger, danger, okay? And then they have the snake, then they have the snake smell some snake skin, and they get a response, and then they go by here, and there's a recorded sound of rattling, or a live rattlesnake in there that rattles, and you're giving a brief stimulus to the neck. And here's an adult one at station number 4, and they don't do anything there other than watch the dog. And usually the dog wants nothing to do with that snake that's rattling. It smells and looks like something dangerous. And this is effective. We have research showing that when tested a year or 2, maybe 3 years later, they respond when they see this or smell this, okay? So I would encourage this approach. If you want to take a snapshot with your phone, these are friends of mine who are probably the biggest people who do this training. And I can show this, no, I hit it, I might have hidden a second slide at the very end if you want this. But anyway, it's something to consider. In terms of snake bite treatment, all of these things in the past, we don't think of as being effective. Cut and suck, using a tourniquet, useless. Antivenom is the only thing that's effective, truly effective, okay? And you want it quick. Time is tissue. The sooner you get to hospital, the less tissue injury you're gonna experience. This extractor sucks, it's no good, just totally sucks, okay? Here's research we did at Loma Linda using pigs, and it actually caused some of the venom to remain there and cause more injury than if we didn't use that suction device. Now I'm going to close by saying something interesting. Venoms are designed to kill, but we humans have hacked what has come of these venoms to devise very clever treatments for human health and disease, okay? So here's an example I've already mentioned, of course, the antivenom for stings and bites. I've mentioned the dog vaccine, but here's Bietta. This is derived from the venom of Gila monsters, okay? Kale, I'm gonna give you this PowerPoint if you want. It's used to treat diabetes, which is remarkable. The package insert says it's derived from the saliva of lizards. It's from the venom of lizards, okay? They don't really want to alarm you, but it's a great medication. In fact, it has led to the weight loss drugs that we now have. What are those called? Ozempic and GLPs, I think. All stemming from the research here. I mean, we have a debt to these animals, a debt to scientists who discovered this. Integralin is derived from pygmy rattlesnake venom, and this is used to treat chest pain, heart attacks. We have several more that I didn't show you, but those are just from rattlesnakes alone. Here's bleeding after surgery. It's a big problem for the brain. Okay, so if you have surgery on your arm, you can bleed and it can swell. That's just fine. It's got room to expand. But if it's your brain, you've got this thing called a brain base, a bone structure. You can't have swelling. The pressure builds up and kills you like that. You can't have internal bleeding in the brain because as soon as you have much bleeding or swelling, you're dead. All right? And so what we're doing, we did research here at Loma Linda where we actually injected venom into rats for 3 days in a row. What does the venom do? It provokes bleeding and swelling. Okay? But we only injected a little bit. And when the body is having trouble with bleeding and swelling, it immediately upregulates defenses to stop it. Our bodies have protective defenses. So by injecting these animals 3 days in a row with small amounts, we did surgeries and then we had much better surgical outcomes. So someday maybe if you or your parents have brain surgery, maybe they'll give you some venom 3 days in a row before so that you have better surgery. It stimulates your body to protect itself, okay? So conclusions, rattlesnakes are important components of our ecosystems. We should treat them with respect. We can coexist with them. They exhibit remarkable adaptations. They're not all that different than us in some of their capacity to make decisions and experience feelings. Rattlesnakes pose serious risk to humans. We gotta treat them with respect. And research and education, we should prioritize those things. The more we learn, the more we care. The more we care, the better off we are. All right. Whoops, where's my fun slide? We'll leave some other things. Anyway, we're done. So there's my fun slide. Who wants to see live animals? I'm going to pull out some rattlesnakes real quick. You want to come up here? Oh, Carol, tell us real quick about how you step on rattlesnakes.
Okay,
Any steps on family and babies? Steps on families.
I just witnessed my friend step on a rattlesnake right in front of me. And as he stepped on it, he didn't know. I was right behind him, but it just tried to get away. It didn't strike him, it didn't rattle. Once he realized and jumped off, it took off in the bushes. So it made me think of a study, and so I made a fake leg. It looks kind of funny. It's a leg, and I stepped
It looks
on
like a fake leg. It looks like a fake
It's
leg.
blue jeans, a boot, and I can control it, like So I started stepping on rattlesnakes, and I've been doing it for about 10 years.
You're the guy on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, and it went viral on Facebook last year. But it was just a study to just show people that they're not as aggressive as we're made to believe. And so I stepped on 185 so far. 6 of them struck the boot. So that's 3%.
They
So-
don't want to bite us. They
Yeah.
really do
The
not want
majority
to.
of them did exactly what I saw with my friend. They would like go like this. They're like trying to get away as the pressure's on. They let go and they just take off. So they're just like so scared of us. And it's just there's lots of evidence that shows that they're chickens. So, scaredy cats, chickens.
Featherless chickens.
They would
right?
rather flee than fight.
So he was testing out this thing, and he would even test it on his family members to make sure he wasn't crushing them. You were testing on babies, weren't you?
I have 4 kids, and so I was like, get your arm out. Stepped on their arms. It's just enough to restrain the snake, but not.
But he stepped on baby snakes.
Yeah, baby snakes. Yeah, so then what Dr. Hayes was saying about the babies, yeah, they acted just like the adults when they stepped on them. And these are little, so I was really being careful to step on the babies.
All right, everybody stays in their seats, right?
Ah,
Oh, quit.
ah,
Quit.
ah.
These are venomous. So these are. So this is a big red diamond rattlesnake. You don't get much bigger than this. See the black and white tail bands? And I keep a hand on it because I don't want it to fall down on the ground. People tend to get a little bothered when that happens. See the triangular head?
Oh,
Skinny
Jesus.
neck? Okay. And why is he flicking his tongue? That's how he smells. Okay. And he's a beautiful creature, and this one's a relatively calm one, which is why I like to bring him. Isn't that pretty?
I'm gonna pass out now.
Now, I'm not sure which of these stay there. You'd be surprised how many snakes we test in our lab. I have a student who's studying other aspects of personality besides how much venom they use. She's tested over 250 rattlesnakes. Whoops, over here. This, that's the red diamond rattlesnake with the big, okay, this is the Southern Pacific. This is more common in your area.
Good me, just
On
look
this
at
side
me.
of the interstate.
I'm gonna pass out now. Wait.
And when you first see these snakes, often they're very defensive. You'll see them rattle. They may wiggle vigorously. They may lunge and strike at me when I grab them with a hook
Jesus.
or with tongs. Show the tongs. Okay, but we prefer showing you relatively tame ones. But you know, I have to maintain distance. And you know, you don't want to do this until you've had a lot of experience. And like I say, don't do it. Don't do it. Because when you first catch a snake in the wild, they're not tame like this. This one I wouldn't say is tame, but it's calm, relatively speaking. Okay? Okay, buddy.
Jeez.
I didn't, did I point out the blacktail? I didn't, how black it was. Again, that's the most common one this side of Interstate 10. And this last one, I don't think you have them in the Yucaipa area. Over in Mill Creek, as you start to go toward Forest Falls, you certainly get these.
Red?
This will be a speckled rattlesnake.
Exactly, yeah, that's red.
This is a farther north one. It's technically a Panamint rattlesnake. It is a different species, but they tend to look like this. Okay. And this one's smaller. I'm not really eager to. I don't need to grab his tail. I just don't want him to fall. But that's a smaller one. This will be a speckled, very similar to a speckled rattlesnake. You can see the body pattern. Okay. Long tail. The rattle normally never gets that long. It usually breaks within about 10 segments. Once it's past about 10 segments, they wear out and break off.
What's the most buttons you've ever seen?
The most captive snakes can have well over 20.
Now there's the rattle,
Around 20. I've seen them around 20.
does the rattle mean they're eight?
No.
Again, every time they shed. So the first year they may shed a couple times, even up to maybe 3 times. And then the second year they may shed a couple times. And then it starts slowing down to once a year. Eventually it becomes once a year. So you can't count those segments.
So you're,
Except for when they're very young. When they're very young, I can go about a year and a half, 2 years in aging them.
If you're in Mule Creek, the ranger station, they got one on the wall. It's got 20 buttons.
It might have been a captive animal.
It's 8'9". I put it on that board. Did you?
What about it?
Oh, we had the skin. Oh,
Ugh.
look at my Rosie. This is a,
Yeah.
I had one for 26 years.
Where's your camera?
They're sweet. They are sweet.
This is a rosy boa. You want to go ahead and grab the king snake or the, I'll let you grab the king snake. A selfie. So let's get a selfie. I got better snakes to handle. I got better snakes. But this is a rosy boa. This is very common in Southern California. Loves the rocky habitats, very gentle. This is a king snake.
Run over by bulldozer.
These get run over all the time by cars. I drive between Hemet and Loma Linda, and in a year I can see as many as 258 dead snakes.
You gonna go get a snake around you?
I count it because I'm a science guard.
Does a California king snake kill rattlesnakes?
Absolutely. They love it. In fact, if this snake smells my hands, it might try to bite me because it smells another snake. These will eat little snakes.
What about red racers?
They don't do real well in captivity, so I don't have one here. If you're asking if they eat other snakes, the answer is yes, including rattlesnakes.
green Mousley?
I got the wrong lid.
Rattlesnakes are for 24 hours.
Pardon?
Do rattlesnakes go on there for 24 hours?
I still missed some of that.
Foreplay. I don't know, foreplay.
Foreplay.
Do they for 24? Like,
The longest record ever of rattlesnake mating population was 28 hours.
So
I
now,
don't believe it. I think they came back and didn't see, I don't like this cat. I think they broke up and then got back together again. Normally it's an hour or 2 at most. Do you have any more experience to comment on that?
I agree with you. Seems like you don't-
The record is 28 hours, which is, I think, gopher snake. And again, look at the tail. What do you see about the tail, kiddos? Very pointed, yeah. You want this around your neck?
Those could get
Why
mean.
don't you get a picture of it around this lady's neck? I would not do that. Okay, now, we're gonna pull out some fun stuff. This is, again, a gopher snake. A lot of these are killed because they look like rattlesnakes, okay? Which is a shame. They don't need to be killed. And this is a particularly gentle one.
Those could get mean.
They can hiss and they'll put their tail in dry leaves, and so you think it's a rattle, you know.
Like a red racer, they'll
Their
bite.
hissing sounds kind of like rattle. Breaking off the bit there.
but are that how they evolve?
What's he getting now?
Okay, these are cobras from highly venomous cobra. No, these are ball pythons from Africa. They're beautiful, and anybody can hold these. You're welcome to come up. I see a line rapidly forming. You can have 2 lines, but these pull out your cameras, because these are lovely, lovely, beautiful creatures, especially if you have black shirts.
what about the green
Black
Mousley?
dress. No. I've given talks to tens and tens of thousands of people. And what I love is when I have to talk a little boy into holding one. See that little girl's holding one. wrap their bodies around glass. You okay there?
Do you think that
These are
that
from Africa. Ball pythons from Africa. This is about as big as they get. So they're perfect for pets. They're just perfect.
do you think that vaccine for dogs works? The National Bite Center says it doesn't work.
It probably has some benefit, but it may not be worth it.
That's what they say. They're just selling a
There's new
product.
under development that's probably more effective for some friends, two-person friends developing. But you know, for red diamond rattlesnake bite, it's going to provide some protection. I'm confident of that for red diamond rattles. Now, there's a possibility you're going to get you develop an allergy to the venom. I mean, that can happen, but that's fairly rare in dogs. But that can make things more dangerous. Because then when they get bit, they have an immediate reaction, allergic reaction.
Do you have an average lifespan of your local rattlesnakes?
Oh, hey, excellent question. What's the average lifespan of rattlesnakes? For many years, we thought it was 25, 30 years. I know somebody who passed away from a rattlesnake bite. Actually, more so, he passed out from allergic reaction to the venom and broke his neck. And that may have had more to do with his death. But he was visiting the dens in the east, and he had a 58. He has one particular female that was 58 years old and gravid. Probably 4 or 5 years before he passed away. And I don't know if he saw it after that. So, and wow, they can live, 60 years or more.
60 years?
60 years.
Ooh.
Have you heard that story? Yeah. I don't.
Average, I think, 20 to 30 years.
I think maybe the wild snakes do better than captive snakes. Maybe because they have more exercise. I don't know. Maybe we feed them mice. Lab mice are probably extra fat. Maybe the more lean prey they naturally. I don't know. They probably do better in the wild. Do they migrate? So what many do is in a colder climate like our mountains, they hibernate together in a den, and then in the spring they head out, and then they come back. So it's a linear or even circular migration, but they don't. And then our snakes down low here, they just move randomly. Okay, they generally stay within the defined area. But rattlesnakes have been recorded as moving over 20 kilometers, so that would be like 15 miles. Prairie rattlesnakes out in the prairie rattlesnakes. Yeah.
There was an article in the paper about 8 years ago about a super rattlesnake, San Jacinto. They were trying to figure out if there was a species or they were interbreeding, but they said it had both venoms. Whatever became of it. The guy was tracking them with a tracker. He was putting in little, the little trackers. They were trying to see if it was a new species, or it was around Hemet, San Jacinto, that area. It was in the paper.
I don't know where the paper got those facts, because I would know those facts.
Well, the guy was he was out of Riverside or somewhere doing a PhD, and they were saying that the venom had both types of venom in it. That's not true.
So I've studied venom all over Southern California. So the Southern rattlesnake up in Iowa, their venom is neurotoxic, like the northern, like the Mojave rattlesnakes.
Right.
But as you come down the mountain in different areas, they can have both types of venom.
That's what they were saying.
The typical and the neurotoxic. But I'm not familiar with anybody from Sierra doing telemetry on numbers.
They showed him actually tracking it. They called it like a super rattlesnake, and he was trying to determine whether it was a new subspecies or if they were crossbreeding.
No, they're not either of those.
Either
It's
one?
just one species. Just tremendous variation going up and down the mountain.
And they had a little S on their chest like Superman. It was in the paper. It was really.
You want to hold these? You're welcome to stand up and hold these.
Some years ago I heard a story about the Mojave greens were interbreeding with other.
The Mojave greens, Mojave rattlesnakes have interbred rarely with other rattlesnake species. It can happen, but it's super rare.
They don't survive, do they?
Yeah, the babies can survive. We don't know how sterile they might be. I don't know if there's any F2 offspring yet from that particular hybrid combination. F2 would be next generation. But they're not hybridizing with gopher snakes or anything else.
No.
They could only hybridize with rattlesnakes. Although back east, you do have just a few records, like maybe 3 or 4 of a rattlesnake and a copperhead hybridizing. That has happened. I don't know if those babies were fertile. Good questions. Yes.
Do you know the antivenom that they have at the vet's office?
Oh, I know the antivenom.
Is it different than the humans? They wanted to charge me $800 a vial. And,
How long ago was this?
last month. And they told me I had to give them a $2,000 down payment, which in my head was for the first vial.
Is this the emergency hospital in Redlands? Yeah, I have.
So I didn't do it, my dog let me.
Yeah, they charge a lot more than they need to. So I have personal friends. The current antivenom most used is actually produced in Venezuela. Sorry, Argentina by Argentinians, and we have a new one that's coming out that I've been involved with the testing of, and it's probably going to be better. But there was a little war between 2 manufacturers. The Argentinian company won out. I think that was selling at 150. So that's a huge markup to sell it at 800. But that's what emergency hospitals do. My dog, I had a dog get a tear in its ear. Suturing was like $1,200 at the emergency hospital in Redlands. My other dog had a bladder stone removed. We're talking full surgery with multiple sets of sutures and everything. It was like $800. So emergency
So is it
clinics.
different then? The ones if you got vet and went to Loma Linda, it's gonna be different than what the vet?
The human ones are different.
Okay.
Now, you might still be able to get the old human one at some veterinary clinics. I don't know if Fort Dodge is completely out of business or not with the old one. But it's a different animal. The human one's different.
What's the current one? Crofab?
You have Crofab and Anavit. Anavit is made in Mexico. Crofab is basically made in several countries. It's complicated. So they take the venom from here, they purify it here, they send it off to England or Scotland, somewhere in Europe to get cleaned up. Then they inject it into sheep in, I think it's Australia or New Zealand. And then they bleed the sheep and purify these antibodies and put them in vials. That's what it is. Now the 2 antivenom, the old antivenom, they were antibodies which are shaped like Ys, okay? And the 2 arms, the tips of those are what recognize different parts of the venom and bind to it and neutralize it, okay? But this little tail, the base of the Y, creates allergy pollens. So researchers learned to digest these antibodies to get rid of the base, which would create allergic problems. Now they just have 2 fragments, so they call that Crofab. It's the Fab fragment, okay? But it turns out those are a little too small, and our kidneys filter them out real quickly from the blood. So you have to keep throwing it into our bodies. And it's great stuff. All 3 products, the original one and the 2 new ones, they're all great. They work very well. But then the researchers came up with a better idea. They digested that differently, so now the 2 arms stick together. So now it's a Fab 2. It's got, instead of Crofab, with single Fab units, now it's the 2 Fab units. They call it Fab 2, and that's the Mexican product. And there was a lawsuit because they used the patent that the other company had, or they violated the patent. But now both are in use, and really the one from Mexico is a better product.
You ever been bitten?
Next question.
How many times?
I've had 2 sort of mild bites, and they were babies, and one I was force feeding, and one I was getting venom from. I've gotten venom from over 1,000 snakes, and I do it safer now, because I can put them in a tube first, and then I can avoid using my hands altogether. But anyway,
Did you receive
the
profile?
second time I got handgun, the first time I didn't need it, it was mild. Babies are less dangerous. They'll put you in the hospital still, but they're less dangerous. The second one, I had Anabit. And I swelled all the way up to here, and it hurt like bad. The first one only went here, and that hurt. You been bitten yet? Smarter than I am.
Yeah.
Dr. Hayes,
It's Bill.
when I was, hey, Bill. When I was a kid, I grew up in this area, and there was a story going around that a guy that was down in the Sankey got bit through his boot and died. And then the story goes on that his brother took the boots and put them on, but the fangs were still in.
Look at his expression. Let me ask, have you heard this story before?
Yes.
And he didn't live anywhere near here.
I heard it in Arizona many times.
I heard this as a kid in Maryland.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's my response to that story.
Oh, thank you.
Do you anesthetize the snakes when you study them, or do you
So we've
restrain them,
only
or what do you do?
anesthetized them for research purposes. Well, we had a couple of health issues where we will anesthetize them, but we've anesthetized them to squeeze the shit out of them for diet studies. So excuse my language,
Well,
but.
I mean, they're also, when you take them out, I was wondering how you kept them steady.
And I've had a student use them to get more accurate, anesthetize them to get more accurate measurements. But we're close enough with our measurements when they're alive.
This type of snake, if I met him in the wild, could I pick him up and handle it like that?
No, this snake would be biting you.
Also,
Probably, probably. I can't say for sure. Because the gopher snake, a lot of the gopher snakes you catch here will not bite you, but a lot will bite you, okay? And it kind of depends on where the country even you're in.
If a rattlesnake's bit by another rattlesnake, is it going to die?
Usually it's gonna live because they are resistant to their own
Okay.
venom. But I have seen 2 die from a bite, both were bit in the skull.
Good.
I've seen them bite each other a number of other times. You know, when you're pulling them out of a den in Wyoming where I did my PhD and putting them into buckets, they'll bite each other and they'll bleed, but they survive fine. Excellent questions. Yeah.
They used to say that if you got bit, that it's helpful if you brought the snake to the hospital with you, so that you could match the venom with
Okay, so he's asking an excellent question. Should you bring the snake with you to the hospital? And I was like, no.
No.
If you want to take a photo of it, that would not be a bad idea. So for rattlesnakes, copperheads, and cottonmouths, we have the same antivenom treats all of them. And it's again, very good product, very good. We owe scientists a debt of gratitude because a lot of people would be dying from the snakes. And worse yet, they'd be suffering severe injury, tissue injury, if it wasn't for antivenoms. And I want to tell you too that how do we get our antivenom? We have to take the venom from the snakes, and it can't be just a single species. We had to take it from 4 species in the U.S. So we have to get the animals in our hands. We have to get the venom. We have to inject the venom into sheep or horses that produce the antibodies that we harvest and give to you if you're bitten. There are people who say research on animals has never saved a human life. And that's just one little area of snake bite. That's so easy to say, baloney, BS. It's just not true. Tons of lives have been saved because of the use of animals for research, how we learned it and how we have to use animals to prepare antivenom. There's going to be ways to get around that someday. There's a ton of research exploring these possibilities. I've been engaged in a little bit of that, but we're not there yet. At this point, antivenom is the big, huge life-saving medication, and we owe a huge debt of gratitude for what that has done. I might have lost, a finger or thumb, when I've been bitten, and other people Other people are much more unfortunate than me. They don't get their antibiotic quick enough, or they don't get sufficient amount. Yeah.
When I was young, I got bit by a black widow, and my parents took it in and took me to the hospital.
Can you hear her?
It hurt pretty bad. I mean, I remember it like contracting, it like swelled up in no time. I guess I was allergic to it.
She got bit by a black widow when you were how old?
I think I was like
12
12.
years old. Tremendous pain and
No, so
contractions,
much
muscle
pain.
contractions.
Muscle contractions.
They'll ruin your day.
Yeah.
It's bad enough we have an antivenom now. So in North America, there's one species of scorpion we have an antivenom for, and 2 species of spiders, the widows and the recluses. You had a question?
Is Dr. Sean Bush from Loma Linda University, is he the doctor that administered to the young baby toddler that was bit by a cobra in Africa? Oh. And they flew over to Loma Linda with him?
So I remember he treated somebody from Africa.
He was actually
He got in a little trouble for using a budget that,
I
that
don't
was,
want to bring that up, but yeah, he, was
but
actually on vacation.
I think it was a kid. I
Yeah.
think it was a child, yeah.
He was on vacation missionary work in Africa
Yeah.
when the little girl was bit. And the village was gonna stone the mother because apparently in that culture, a baby is to be placed on their back in a sling until they're able to walk or run away from predators. And so they were gonna stone the mother and put her to death and cut the baby's leg off.
Oh, wow.
And he intervened and arranged a trip for Loma Linda where he treated her. And I met the child and the mother at Loma McDonald House. That's how I know the story. But, I heard he was fantastic with families.
He did a very good job. He moved to North Carolina, and I think he's moving now to Canada because he just remarried.
Oh, he did?
3 months ago, I think. 3 months ago.
Oh.
So, I see him regularly
And he and
at
his,
meetings.
he and his ex-wife used to go to church when I was at the Christian church.
Yeah, they lived in Ukaipa for a while.
Yes, they did.
Didn't his son get bit by a
Yes.
snake?
His son got bit once.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't a good teacher, was he? 2 steps back, Jack.
Really?
He used to tell everybody else that. I don't know what happened.
Okay, two things. I understand that ground squirrels are immune,
Ground squirrels are immune. She understands that if you can't hear.
and that possums can take a huge amount of bites.
Possums can survive and die. They have basically antibodies in their blood. It's a little different kind of immunity, but it's innate for them. So, for the way vaccines work for us, and I know people who don't trust vaccines anymore, but it's a very simple thing. You inject this protein inside your body says, hey, that doesn't belong in me, it's foreign. So we produce antibodies. That's all it does, produces antibodies. That's why you and I don't get chicken pox regularly, because we got a bunch of antibodies. Actually, the antibodies only persist so long, so we have memory cells that remember this nasty thing called the chickenpox virus. And so as soon as we get exposed again, within 2 or 3 days, we're pumping out antibodies to wipe out that virus. So these have memory cells or they have something analogous, proteins that are protecting them from the venom. Okay? But it's already there in place. It's not something that they have to get bitten and wait 2 or 3 days for a response. It's something already there. They just have a lot of this immune resistance, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I have two rattlesnake stories, and one was a cat.
That's not a rattlesnake.
Well, you know what, that's what the vet said, no, it was probably was a black widow, and, but it was obviously something toxic.
So the cat got envenomated?
By something, and we had to put it in the hospital, and after a few days, he kept having to cut away tissue. And after a few days, he said, I think it was a rattlesnake. And when I brought her home, they removed so much tissue, but it all grew back, and she survived it. And we had 2 dogs that, the smaller came in and said, your husband just called, he's coming with the other dog. which was
Oh,
the
no.
bigger dog. I said, is there anything else we can do? And we didn't have any out of venom. They were young, strong, big dogs. And they just put them on supportive therapies and with fluids and antibiotics and stuff like that. And they both survived, and they didn't lose tissue. One had a big basketball-sized swelling, and the other one looked like I don't know what, swollen head, you know. But I'll tell you, it's a hefty vet bill.
Yeah, a lot of these animals can survive a bite. A lot of them do not.
Avoidance training
And-
is cheaper.
Pardon?
Avoidance training is cheaper.
Avoidance
and it
training
works.
is pretty inexpensive, because I'm convinced it works. There was something else I wanted to say. Kelly, you're always welcome to speak up. I don't remember what else I wanted to say.
I have one more question while you're thinking.
Yeah, oh, Benadryl, I'm gonna say Benadryl. There are vets and a lot of people you see online, you find anything you want online.
No
But-
Benadryl.
Yeah, Benadryl does not help a bite, okay? If it does at all, it's gonna be so trivial, but there is this widespread myth that Benadryl is all you need to give your dog or a cat, and that's bunk. The Benadryl does not neutralize the venom. I say that with some reservation, because there are studies showing it can do several venom components that can cause some inhibition, but it's not gonna benefit your dog.
How high up in altitude do the rattlesnakes go?
Well, they're all the way up, pretty close to the summits, all these summits here. So in Colorado, you can find them over 10,000 feet, and that's even colder weather than we have. So they may, during the winter, hibernate 8 months, be active 4 months of the year, and still get enough energy, not only to grow, but to reproduce.
The Southern Pacific will go that high?
Southern Pacifics are, I think they're at our summits, yeah. I haven't been to our summits. The habitat is.
We've seen them about 7K.
As long as there's vegetation up there, they're there.
There's plenty of ground, chipmunks and mice too.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, they do well at high elevation. They're the only ones going that high. By the time you get into the pine forest, pretty much just that. Right on the edge of the pines, you might get red diamonds, you might get speckles. But once you're into the pines and above that, it's strictly Southern Pacifics here.
I saw on one of your slides, you had a car battery, and you used to say that you could shock people that got bitten and it would help them. What was the idea of that? How did that work?
It was in Western Outdoors.
So in I want to say the 1980s,
Yeah, we
some physician down in Ecuador, I believe, he decided that he could shock these patients. So he shocked like 70 patients, and lo and behold, all of them lived.
It was before that.
But we don't know how many of them would have died if he didn't shock them.
Yeah,
When I was a kid, they did it in the Ozarks.
yeah.
Well, subsequently, there were a lot of studies done, because this was an exciting development, and the results were electrifying. There was no benefit.
Shocking.
No benefit.
Phil, I have one tip for everybody here who lives in Ukiah and Redlands and around. I used to work in the woods, and so I'm used to all this. But listen, wherever you are, listen to your animals. And for instance, who knows what a scrub jay is? Little loudmouth blue thing. Yeah, listen to them. I've been warned, I've been called out of my office and my house 2 or 3 times because the critters were making a noise. One of them sees a snake, could be a gopher snake, most of the time it's a rattlesnake, and they start squawking, and here comes 19 relatives, and they'll stand in a circle around it, or stand in a tree and scold, and scold, and scold. So if you're in the house, you go, what's those birds doing? Even crows and ravens. Go out and look. You don't have to catch it, but go out and look in case it's something you can put a bucket over, or keep your kids and dogs from getting into. Listen to the critter.
So I've been birding for over 50 years, and it's a passion. And when I hear little birds making a lot of noise and they're up in the trees, they've got an owl.
Yep.
And when it's down low, it's a snake. Not necessarily a rattlesnake, but it's going to likely be a
And they
snake.
don't like them.
it's not common, but you can pay attention and,
Yeah.
yeah.
As I say, Jim, too, my husband was panning for gold up in Mill Creek, and, you know, you hear the water rushing, and he's panning, and he looks up, and there's a snake right in front of him, ready to hit him in the face, you know, and so if you have a hearing issue, or, you know, get too close to the water, you gotta really watch what you're doing.
To me, it sounds like rushing water.
Yeah.
Do you hear that?
I thought it was a broken propane line.
Sounds like that.
You're not gonna get in there and fix it.
Well, you all heard it, yeah.
They vibrate, like, cause me and my daughter were on a hike and we came right up on one, we turned the corner and it was right there and it vibrated so hard, like, that it was off the ground, it looked like, it was off the ground completely. It didn't strike us, so it felt like this, like it didn't want to, you know? It just-
They don't want to.
No, and what do you call it, whatever us,
The only time they're gonna come our direction is when you surprise them and they have a safe place on the other side of you. Sometimes they wanna quickly get to the other side. Now, there are rattlesnakes on the road at night, like the western diamondback. You encounter a western diamondback during the day and they pretty much stand their ground. When you say count, he's caught a lot more than I have in Arizona. But at night, they often are just wanting to get on the other side of the road. They'll look between your legs if you just stand still. You've seen that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they don't stand their ground and coil. They prefer just to get past you. And if you try to stop them with your hook or something, a lot of times they'll bite it maybe, but they just want to keep crawling. They don't want to turn around and go the other way. You've seen this, right?
Yeah, so I did an unpublished study where I put gaiters on, the rattlesnake proof legwear.
And then he stepped on
And I
them.
let them just come towards me. My wife did one like this. They didn't do anything, like when you just stand there. So they just didn't have a choice. They were trying to get off the road or into a bush, and they would go between my legs, around my legs, sometimes stop and smell me, then go around me. They just don't care.
Do you think?
Some of them will turn around and get off.
Do you think Mojave Greens are more aggressive?
That's debated. So our field data that we have from collaborators suggests they are more likely to bite when you pick them up with tongs, okay? In the lab, I don't think we're seeing that in the lab. So it's a little more, contextual. It's hard to say.
We had one chases them once.
What do you think?
So I stepped on Mojaves and Diamondbacks, and the striking, the boot was slightly higher with Mojaves, but it didn't seem that big.
Have you ever had one actually chase you?
No, I've never had a rattlesnake chase me,
Get out.
and I've caught thousands.
Can we give Bill
And
and
Kale.
Kale some love?